How many of you been watching the Olympics? Almost everybody. Did you watch the 400-meter final? Men's. But I could have asked both, but my mind's on the men's.
I watched women's. They dived over the line.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible,
That's
wasn't
pretty
it?
incredible, just to get the hip there a quarter second.
Yeah, well, it's the chest, but...
They said the hip on the thing.
Oh, really? Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, 10 meters from the finish, I didn't think she was going to make it. She found a way. Did you watch the men's 400-meter final? Yeah. The South African, what lane was he in? Lane 8. Do you have any idea why he was in lane 8? He was in lane 8 because he was one of the slower qualifiers. Okay, and one of the reasons they put a slower qualifier in lane 8 is because there's a lot of disadvantages. Right? He couldn't watch the race at all. All he could do is race his own race.
He said he ran scared. He didn't know what everybody else was doing. So
He ran basically as hard as he could. So there was little strategy except for that. Interesting story, and again, this comes from Elite Minds, the book I share with you a lot. He talks about an athlete that he worked with, an elite collegiate athlete whose goal was to make the 2008 Olympic team. And she did. She made the 2008 Olympic team, and then when she got there, she ran poorly and didn't progress. Then her goal in 2012 was to make the final. So she made the team again, she progresses through the prelims, she makes the final, and she runs poorly in the final. So when this guy who wrote the book is talking to her after the fact, he goes back and he talks to her about those races and says, all right, in 2008, what was your goal? And he says, did you achieve it? And she says no, she didn't achieve it because she didn't run well, but then he asks her to restate it, and she realizes she did what she expected to do. And then he talks about 2012 again. He says, what was your goal? Just to make the final. Did you achieve it? And she goes immediately to, oh, well, I ran poorly in the final. But he says, again, what was your goal? Was to make the final. Right? So, most runners don't do more than they expect to do. Right? That's a mindset, and it's true of all of us. That runner, despite the fact, this guy from South Africa, and by the way, I'm doing a lot of research into it because I'm much more interested in his coach. Did you see the story on her? So I've got to learn about her and him. So I'm just starting to. I can't even repeat his name, but I'm sorry. What? And his first name is Wade, right? Yeah, I got that part down.
her name was Anne Baca.
Yeah. So, if you're listening from home, Paula knows much more than I do. Anyway, he got out in lane 8, and what most people would have done in his position is start to make excuses. Because that's what we do. Right? When we're afraid, we start to make excuses about the outcome before the race even starts. And think about whether or not you've ever done that. You don't have to admit to it. But how many of you expected poor outcomes that eventually actually came true? Or you were afraid of something, and that something didn't happen, but you ran poorly anyway, right? Because your expectations were low. One of the great things about that race to me is, despite all of the reasons why Wade should not have run well, he did. And he ran faster for 400 meters than anybody's ever done before, setting the world record. That was mental. It wasn't a physical race for him, it was a mental race. And again, I just sort of wanted to point out that as an example, and again, make sure you're checking yourself. I have so many conversations with people, and I hear sentences that start with the two words, I can't. And as soon as you do that, what you're doing basically is saying, I'm afraid to try. For some reason, right? And that reason could be different for all of us. But can is a very dangerous word, right? So whatever your circumstances are, if you hear yourself saying it or thinking it, check yourself and look for reasons why you can, regardless of what your lane assignment is in life or in the race, or whatever you might be facing.